morning, everyone. My name is Sahar. I'm a senior from Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School in Lexington, Kentucky. And I am more than excited to be with you guys here this morning. I've been part of the Pritchard Community Student Voice team ever since its inception, back when I was in 8th grade. So I've been in this work for about 5 years now and loved every second of it. Currently, I am the chair of the post-secondary committee, which is really working to see why kids in high school are making that difficult transition into college, and most importantly, why they're not staying and receiving their college or bachelor's degrees. But within my work, I've seen that it's a lot more than just going to school and academics alone. So to give you guys a brief background on who we are and what we do, we're about 100 members all across the state of Kentucky. And I think what's really important about this organization is that we're self-selected. We don't have any applications, any interview processes. If you're interested and passionate about education, improving the state of public education in Kentucky, we're more than happy to have you. And what's more, we do know that we're centralized in Lexington. And that's why one of our main initiatives and goals is to go out and reach other students, those that fall through the cracks, those that teachers don't necessarily talk to after school. We're about, we range from 10 years old all the way through 20, from middle schoolers to individuals that have already graduated college. And in a nutshell, we want to simply amplify the voices of students when it comes to decision making. More importantly, we want to support students as partners, not necessarily those that are just consumers of their own education system. We spend 35 hours a week in the classroom along with teachers and administrators, and we can see the direct implementations of policy and how they plan out contrary to their intent. So when I approach this work, we're seeing that students are being ironically disengaged from conversations that had so much of an impact on their education system. So we decided to go about it in a very organic method. No formalities, no surveys, just sat down and had conversations and roundtables with students all across the state. And the things that we found were absolutely instrumental and groundbreaking when it came to policy research. We found that we could get more information and data from students just by sitting with them and having a conversation as if we were at lunch or on a school bus. Than we could by dragging out hours of surveys and going through thousands of numbers and data points. So what I'm really here to talk to you about today is the idea that is meaningful student voice. We always say we want student voice in our schools and we want students to be listened to, and of course we do, but there's a very big difference between student voice and having it be meaningful, impactful, and formal. So when I first approached my school about this, like, yeah, we totally have student voice, we have student council. You guys elect each other, you plan dances, and that's not necessarily the same thing as saying having a representative on the site-based decision-making council. So making that very key difference between meaningful student voice is supporting students as active partners in their own learning and school decision-making. Now, we know that this is still a very abstract concept, so today I'm hoping to go through two main examples of how the Pritchard Committee specifically has used student voices to make meaningful impact within the state. And one of the first ones that we really want to highlight is the idea of school climate. And this is a really big buzzword again, but what we're seeing school climate is that this is quality of the school, the character that it brings, how students really feel when they're going into it. Are they safe? Do they feel welcome? How are the morals and values that the school is letting out aligning with those that they have at home? It reflects the norms and the goals and the interpersonal relationships that at times seem to be lacking when it comes to policy research. And what's most instrumental about this idea of school climate that I think that has been ignored over a long period of time is that school climate is directly related to academic achievement. If we want students to be successful in high school and throughout college, we really need to make sure that they're having a successful foothold and foundation when it comes to high school. And that's not necessarily only about academics. It's not about getting those benchmarks on ACTs, but making school a welcoming environment where students really want to be. Now, granted, I know that I don't wake up every single morning and say, oh, I can't wait to study Shakespeare. But I do look forward to having conversations with my teachers, seeing my friends, being able to have those interpersonal relationships with them. And having that be a key marker in how we're going forward in education is something that's very important. In fact, we're seeing through times and studies again that if you have an increased school climate where students feel supported and an environment that they feel safe, you minimize problematic behaviors. Students with special needs, for example, benefit from positive school climates when they feel included and respected. You're seeing that delinquency goes down, grades go up, all in all, it becomes a better place for students to be. Now, how did this work specifically in our work in Kentucky? Well, over the last couple of years, we've done something we like to call school climate audits, where we just go in completely for free, talk to kids, and see what they have to say about their schools. One of the most pivotal roles that this did was at Franklin County, where we just went in, had a couple of conversations with students, no surveys, no formalities. There were roundtables like you see before us, but we just kind of picked and chose students out of class and tell us one thing that you like about your school and you don't, and tell us one thing that no adult would know about your education experience. And we were seeing students citing bullying as feeling unsafe in schools as their major concerns. And we did the same thing to teachers, and none of their priorities aligned, which we found very baffling. Because this school has specifically been one of the ones that moved extensively, like research has been done, seeing what works and what doesn't. But when we just took them out and had simple conversations with them, the results were, outstanding. And what we're seeing is that we do want to value numbers as well. So we found that only 34% of the students at that school said that they found school belonging favorable. And that's just favorable, not amazing and not perfect. But 34% of the students at that high school said that they could tolerate being there on a daily basis. 48% found the school climate favorable, and 25% that they felt engaged in school at any given time. Which means if I was speaking to this audience, only 1/4 of you here, so about only 2 tables would actually be listening to what I'm saying. School safety, about half of them felt that they didn't feel safe in school, and these numbers go on and on about how it directly relates to how they're feeling in school. But this is all a little bit, down and up, so let's find some ways in which we can improve it for no cost at all. The Student Voice team, we don't get a lot of funding. In fact, our first year wasn't on a shoestring budget, it was on a floss budget. So we had to learn how to work quickly and work cheap. And we found that working small and being efficient doesn't necessarily have to come with a lot of funding. We're seeing that the best results can be found through just little things. So this is the hallway at Franklin Simpson High School. Everything is bright, it's open, there's art on the wall. Every single student at that school put a handprint up on the 2018 mark to show their investment. Another school example is that they had Bitmojis, or characterizations of their teachers painted and plastered all over the school. And so usually freshmen come in scared and antsy about their high school experience, and seeing their teachers humanized and personified in this manner really opened up the classroom environment. In fact, that's what they really enjoyed about their school. So as adults, we kind of look on this and be like, oh, look, it's just a painting, but to some kids it means a lot. And one thing that started at my school specifically was the Humans of Dunbar series, where every single day you just get one quote from a student, put it on our blog, on our Instagram, so we can have some friendly faces to know we're just around. Again, every single one of these examples is completely free and does not cost anything at all. But when we went and talked about school a couple months afterwards, we're seeing that their engagement, their likability, their wanting to go to school improved as well. So that's just within the high school realm, and seeing how such little can create so many differences when it comes to academic achievement. But what about making that next step? Now this is the project that I've been working on extensively for the past 5 years, and we like to see that it does have an evolution. So that little girl in the front with the blue dress is me. Not the most flattering picture, but it kind of shows how deeply that we've been working with this idea that comes with post-secondary success. Specifically, in Kentucky, 66% of all students that want to pursue a post-high school degree drop out within their first semester. So there has to be something that we're not measuring. These kids that were going to college or deemed college and career ready by their high school, 66% of them aren't even getting through the first couple of months. So there had to be something that we were missing. In the state, the way that college and career readiness was being measured was just a simple ACT score. So you and I both know that if a 7th grader took this test, met all the benchmarks, and put them in the middle of a college campus, they would surely not survive. But that's the way that the state was going about it. So we did a little bit of work, again, with the grassroots methods. We didn't go out searching for these answers. These issues came to us and we just talked to students. And it led us to one of our first published reports, which was uncovering the tripwires to post-secondary success. Now this highlighted 3 major issues that came to make that transition. And the first one was being the birthright lottery. The idea that where you were born or what zip code you had drastically influenced the level of education, what classes you had available, what AP courses you could take, how engaged students and the teachers were. Again, that entire school climate playing a very active role. The second key finding was the idea of the hidden college costs. If you want to be competitive in the application pool for college, you need to play sports. That costs money. You need to take the ACT multiple times. That costs money. And none of that is highlighted at all for most students when it comes to this idea, which leads me to a third finding, college and career unreadiness. So this means that yes, you might have the academics necessary, but are you financially ready? Are you socially and emotionally ready? And time again, I had students come up to me like, what in the world is FAFSA? How in the world do I afford college? And this was just the beginning of our work. In this report specifically, we tied student voices, the books that we found, specifically to the policy that could be addressed it. And it just started at the beginning. We met up with Gear Up Kentucky, which Gear Up is a nationally funded organization, and it really targets schools with students that have a lower income. More specifically, if the free and reduced lunch rate at that school was greater than 50%, chances were that Gear Up counselors were there specifically to help students with lower income, first-generation students to get from high school to college. And they said, we want to work together. And we're like, of course, it's an amazing organization, why not? So with them, we traveled to schools all across the county of Kentucky, again, having those conversations and having those roundtables. And the key things that we saw was that we wanted to make our own survey. Before I went to every single one of these schools, I looked at their ACT scores, their college and career readiness marks, and I thought I knew each of them so intimately. I could tell you right off the back of my hand what percent were minorities, what percent were lower income, and it wasn't until I got into the school and started talking to these kids that I realized I knew nothing about them at all. And that is what really worried me and my team. Because those reports that we had studied and knew so well was all that policymakers down in Frankfort, Kentucky were getting. And if we knew them so well and were still proven wrong and we just had conversations with them, how are policymakers acting that didn't necessarily look at all the small details and numbers? These voices and the humanization of students was something that was missing from policy. So yes, we wanted to get those stories as well, to have those voices, but we also wanted to have our own surveys, ask questions that we wanted to know the answers to. So in addition to all the roundtables, we made our own survey and sent out to about 500 student seniors from all across the state. And coupled with the voices and the facts, we found 4 key findings throughout all this. And the first one is that a significant number of Kentucky students aren't sold on the value of a college education. So this is meaning that the cultural poles, their ties and their pressures are a formidable force. In fact, about 44% of the students that we surveyed said that they didn't think college was a necessary step for a successful future. Mostly because everyone that they looked up to, mostly the teachers or their own parents, went to college and are now struggling with debt from those years. So financial literacy is not something that's been discussed in high school when it comes to making that transition. The second main finding was that family support can make a significant difference, and a lot of Kentucky students feel they don't have it. One out of every 4 kids in Kentucky said they don't have anyone at school or anyone at home that cared about their academics, enough to have a conversation about them about once a week. 1/4 of kids don't feel that they have any support at all from their adult allies. And that was something that drastically proved really important in making that trajectory. Too many times I heard students say, oh, my one teacher told me I'm not college and career ready, so I never thought about it again. And vice versa. Students say I had one counselor that really believed in me, and that that's what caused me to go forward. Again, it's not just about the academics, but rather everything that surrounds it that seemingly seems to be ignored in Kentucky. Third was that the primary tool to measure college and career readiness reflects and possibly even perpetuates inequity. And with this specifically, I meant the standardized tests that were the only measurement of the ACT. So 64% of the students that said that they didn't take the ACT more than once was because they couldn't afford to do so. And 84% of the students that said that they took test prep classes saw their scores increase by about 5 points, which means that those that are wealthy enough to get those test prep classes to take it multiple times are seeing more success when it comes to the way that we measure school equity. And time again, we're seeing that students that aren't necessarily good students do very well on the ACT and they get to college and then they drop out. They'll be an awful example back in their school again. And of course, I'm paraphrasing these stories, but hopefully we'll come back to that. And last but not least is that Kentucky has a school counseling crisis. Currently, the ratio of a school counselor to a student is 444 to 1. So just think about being responsible for the trajectory and the future of 444 students. It's a lot. Now, on top of that, all the testing administration duties that you have as a counselor, and on top of that, add all the emotional support that you need to provide your students. That is absolutely necessary. School counselors are playing a formidable force in how students are reacting in the future. I know that I would not be where I am had it not been for my counselor. And of all the students I spoke to, the Gear Up counselors were the one single individual that pushed them to do better. So this is definitely an area that needs to be further delved into. I don't have too much time with you guys this morning, sadly, but usually I would spend some time talking about the stories that I found. But I think it might be a better idea for you guys to do that on your own. Before, in the Tripwires report, we took out quotes from students and matched them up with certain facts and statistics. But as I was going through these 10 counties across the state, I couldn't bring myself to chop up their stories and distill their humanity to a single quote, as the ACT distilled their entire education system to a single number. So we transcribed all the roundtables, cleaned them up, edited them up, and put these raw stories into our unpublished book, Ready or Not, Stories from Students Behind the Statistics. In it, we're seeing that, yes, there are a lot of dysfunctional stories in it, but it's been a driving force when it comes to making education changes. You can see the evolution of the student's success, not just a single snapshot of their education score, but you can see where the problems started, why they started, and how that affects them in the future. That's how we're seeing why parents and adults and allies, the smallest little things can make the biggest difference. And a lot of the stories, frankly, broke my heart. There was one student that said, I have about $1,000 saved up for college. Is that enough? In all sincerity, she believed that it was. But in the end, we're seeing that it can cause a lot of difference. Had it not been for these stories, the Commissioner of Education at Kentucky wouldn't have changed our college and career readiness standards for the upcoming year. Now we're including GPA, teacher recommendations. If you're taking an AP course and passing it, you probably might be ready for a college class. Who knew? So we're seeing that, yes, it's difficult, and it has a lot of hard work behind it, but hopefully if we can go out and get those stories and put it in a nice little book for policymakers, it'll make a lot of difference in education. So yes, it's available online on Amazon, Ready or Not, and if you even want the facilitators edition that has questions to start those really integral conversations. Granted, a lot of kids can't talk to one another really easily, so it must be very difficult for administrators to do the same with students, so we included those questions just in case as well. And I think I've done a lot over my time with it. So if you're interested in knowing more about us, follow our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat.